And here we go.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to Football Guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
It's a battle of the Browns to start things off in the Week 7 recap here on the Audible, and it's the new Browns, the Ravens, 23, the old Browns, or wait, the new Browns and the old, I think I got that backwards, Bloom. We need to rewind the show.
The new old Browns.
Yeah, 23-20 Ravens win. How about I stop being cute and just get to the facts? Jacoby Brissett was trying, man, at the end. 22 of 27, 258 yards, running around, staying alive. Had his Ben Roethlisberger impression, right?
Mm-hmm.
You saw Nick Chubb with 91 yards and a rushing touchdown. Kareem Hunt with 4 yards and a rushing touchdown. Amari Cooper, 3 for 74. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 6 for 71. Don't worry about the end play. He's just trying to make a play at the end. David Njoku, that's working, 7 for 71. They're continuing on there. Chubb with 2 catches for 16 yards as well. So the Browns almost ended up winning this thing, and in the end, fall short.
Yeah, this is a bitter loss because Jacoby Brissett, we weren't quite sure where we were with this offense, with Jacoby Brissett getting humbled by Bill Belichick and company last week. And Brissett played very well in this one. But there was one point where he got ball stripped by Calais Campbell in his own end, and the Ravens scored, and that really ended up being the difference. Hunt did get a score in this one because the offense was better. So Hunt is kind of going to go with the offense. As the offense is productive, he'll get his chances. If it's not, he won't. He did get one that he converted, really 2. He converted the second one. The pass game was good enough against the Ravens. You're not really scared of this Ravens defense. It was there for Amari Cooper on one of the late drives, but he committed offensive pass interference. So you feel like some things are getting in order for the Browns. It wasn't even a bad defensive performance. Nick Chubb was good, but really that offensive pass interference and that fumble deep in their own end was too much. Now they have to have the battle of Ohio with Cincinnati coming to town next week.
Speaking of fumbles, I feel like when I'd ever talk about one Justice Hill, it feels like when I talked about McCall Hardman. Stop trying to make Justice Hill a thing. He's not good, everybody. Okay? He's just not good. He can't hold on to the rock. Gus Edwards, the Gus bus, right? 2 rushing touchdowns, 66 yards. And Gus doesn't even look the same, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, I was watching Gus Edwards, and not like he was ever, like, super explosive, but he still didn't look quite right in his first game back. And I was like, okay, give him some time. It's first game back. 2 rushing touchdowns. Justice Hill fumbling. Like, just stop, everyone. Justice Hill, it's a fantasy that he was ever going to amount to anything. Anyway, Bloom. Lamar Jackson, 9 of 16, 120 yards as a passer, which means nobody in the passing game did anything, including Andrews. Couple of targets, no catches. Oh, Devin Duvernay, 2 for 42. Rashad Bateman, 4 for 42. So here you go. Gus Bus is back, and, well, they rode him today.
Yeah, it makes sense, Cecil. You know, kind of like a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll. I don't know how we would do our odd couple. We were islands in the stream. You're the motorboater, so you're going to be on Team Gus. And hey, it was a great day to be on Team Gus. I like the scat backs. I like the backs with the acceleration and the quickness. That's Justice Hill, but you're right. His fumble opened the door for the Browns to have a chance to win this game. So I think you are going to see it be the Gus bus in the lead here, the lead sled dog for the Ravens. And I say sled dog because this Ravens offense, you put Gus back in there, and all of a sudden we're back to the future or back to 2019, but not quite, because this isn't Lamar Jackson lighting up the defenses on the few times he does pass. But just know that there were 16 pass attempts and 44 rushes in this game. So that's the template now. Right? We're back to that, but it's not a supersized offense where there's a highly efficient passing game. Mark Andrews came into this one banged up, didn't catch a pass. I don't know how much the first has to do with the second, or it's just this is going to be the offense now, with the defense being good enough to keep them in the lead, and the defense actually basically staking them to the field position to open up the lead. Kenyon Drake goes back to being a pumpkin in this one too. I think 11 carries for 5 yards. So it's Gus Edwards' backfield. Like you said, Cease, we probably haven't even seen the best of him now. The 2 touchdowns may or may not come week in, week out. But the real fantasy headline here, other than Gus Bus, is Lamar Jackson now, not just in an empty slump, but kind of a fantasy liability this week, and the team won, so that's not good. We're going to get to look at this, and really you're just only starting Mark Andrews in this passing game until further notice on Thursday night against Tampa Bay, and boy, we have a few things to say about Tampa Bay today.
That we do, and they are the next game up. It's Buccaneers and it's Panthers, and just like we thought, so the Panthers, sans Christian McCaffrey getting the win. Oh boy. Okay, lots of shit. This one, 21-3, the final score. And Tom Brady, is he washed? Well, 32 of 49, 290 yards, no touchdowns, no INTs. Although he would have had a long touchdown early if Mike Evans done whatever Mike Evans was doing. It was like right to him. Like tapped it up to himself and then couldn't reach it after he did. It was weird. You don't see that from Mike Evans. 9.6, and again, Bloom, that would have been what, 50-yard touchdown? It was. K. Dotton 4 for 64, Chris Godwin 7 for 43, Russell Gage 4 for 39 in this one. Notice how I'm ignoring the backfield because, well, they ignore the backfield, and well, they only got 3 points in the fourth quarter. They were blanked for most of this game. So what's going on? Tampa.
Humiliation's going on, although still humiliation might be good enough to win this division. That's going to be a theme, right? I mean, look, Occam's razor, right? We know that Tom Brady's been having personal life struggles or something. Like the quarterback doesn't usually leave the middle of training camp. So if you saw that as ominous, well, you probably go on to something now. There's injuries. There's other things holding this team back. But we also say, if a team takes on the head coach or quarterback's personality, if the team takes on Tom Brady's personality and Tom Brady's going through whatever Tom Brady's going through, well, the team's kind of going through it too, right?
Yep.
Right down to the initials, right? Todd Bowles, Tampa Bay. And you're right about the Mike Evans thing. Cecil was kind of like Indiana Jones or something, where if Mike Evans had caught that, maybe they would have won this game 28-3, right? But because he dropped it, all of a sudden, like the door slams shut, the bars come out, and it's a nightmare. And you're going to be tortured to death. You're going to die hanging on the spikes and bleed to death, because this was truly a humiliating loss, and it just got worse and worse. There was the dink and dunk passing game. Okay, K. Dotton had something, sure, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans got enough volume. But otherwise, there was a point in this game where they punted 5 times, and then it was the end of the half, and then they got stopped on 4th down. Mike Evans looked a little banged up in here. They even committed a roughing the punter penalty to allow Carolina to string along a clinching drive. So they looked like a terrible team. They were the worst team on the field in this week. We never thought we'd say that about Tampa Bay. And again, they got to go play Baltimore on Thursday. So yeah, Panthers, enjoy your day.
Enjoy your day. PJ Walker, 16 of 22, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. DJ Moore, 7 for 69 and a touch. Terrace Marshall, yes, he's still there, 2 for 31. Super deep dynasty. We'll watch. Tommy Tremble was really excited to get in the end zone, which is cool. See him have fun like that. And it was Dante Foreman. Chuba Hubbard was the starter, 9 for 63 and a touchdown, and then a couple catches for 10 yards. But it's Dante Foreman, 15 for 118. So here we go with the guy that's the starter, and then the guy that does most of the work, as I'm watching Latavius Murray get in the end zone for the Broncos. Anyway, Bloom, let's discuss what Carolina was able to do in their victory formation today.
Yeah, it was the running backs, and all of a sudden the running game comes alive. PJ Walker's making some throws. DJ Moore is making some plays. Tremendous toe tap that didn't even count at the sidelines. So there wasn't much of this offense. You saw just some big holes. Maybe it's just a demoralized. In the airplane terms, those of you that remember the great movie Airplanes, they ate the fish. Tampa Bay ate the fish today, and Carolina didn't. So they had a spring in their step, and I think they were feeding on this. And see, so I think there's a dynamic here too about divisional rivals, especially a team like the Tampa. They were playing the bully recently. So when you get a chance to kick the bully in the crotch and then kick him when he's down, you kick him and you go ahead and get in those lumps, as this team has been taking their lumps. Will this happen again? Is this just a one-off? Probably. We'll see. They're going to face, it's an NFC South showdown. You're only a game out of first place, Carolina and Atlanta. This is your divisions. Go seize it.
Seize the day. It is Atlanta and Cincinnati up next. Not a surprise. We saw Cincinnati come on top. 35-17 is that final score. So let's talk about the Falcons side first. And when they fall behind so early, they can't have Marcus Mariota pass 14 times. They just make it 13 times. Yeah. Right. So we're behind. We should play catch-up ball. Nah, just keep handing the ball off. Tyler Algier, 16 for 50 and a touchdown, 3-1 a carry. That's commitment. Marcus Mariota with 31 rushing yards, but 8 of 13 for 124 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown to Demir Bird, 1 for 75. Nobody started him. Kyle Pitts, 3 for 9. Drake London, 1 for 9. So you fall behind. It was 14-0, and then they score 17 in the second quarter. But then Cincinnati scores 14. So it's 28-17 at halftime, and Bengals kind of put in cruise control from after there.
Yeah, this is one of those results from today that actually gives you a little bit of comfort, right? The NFL has been making us queasy week to week when there's going to be something that you predict and it happens basically the way you envision it, except no, not quite. Because like you said, Cease, we think garbage time, right? Play fantasy long enough, you know there's always garbage time. Bad team, even a bad quarterback, bad passing game can rack up a lot of cheap yards and receptions whenever you're behind big in the second half. Not so quick. And like you said, they stay committed to the run. See, it even works. They stay committed to the run, pick your spots in the passing game. 75-yard touchdown to Demir Bird. Yay. Tyler Algier gets a touchdown if you played him as a what the heck flex or what have you. So they lose 35-17 instead of 35-3. I mean, that's it, right? And the thing is, we thought the Falcons are a bad team or they're going to be a bottom third of the league team. And they sometimes look like that. Or parts of games they did, parts of games they didn't. This game they did on offense. And like you said, Cease, now, and this one was, again, 29 rush attempts, 13 pass attempts. And it basically worked the way they drew it up. It was only good enough for 17 points. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, when are you going to play them? Kyle Pitts couldn't be named more accurately. Now, it's the Pitts to own him. It's just, you have, I retract, go to our old language there because it's just frustration for, if you have Kyle Pitts, it's the worst kind of player to have on your fantasy team because you still want to keep playing him. You still want to believe there's going to be a chance. And there's not. I know that at some point in the future, and Mike Gesicki is a smaller version of this as far as the peak that we could hope for, but you have a player that is not used to their talents, not used in a way to maximize how they can affect the outcome of the game. The folks can lose hope, but I think at this point, I would it take 2 straight good weeks, 3 straight good weeks for you to even think about putting Pitts in. Maybe in number 3 you will, but now we can see even in an ideal game script, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for Drake London. And it's not happening for the Falcons, except again, they're in the NFC South. So they beat Carolina. They're right in the mix.
They're in the mix. The Bengals, they were one of those teams whenever their record was, it was 3-3 entering this game, but weren't they 2-3 also?
Right.
Yeah. And we just knew, just turn it on. Joe Burrow, just turn it on. Like flip the switch. Let's go. The Bengals, you're not that. You're not. Your record doesn't reflect who you are. Sorry, Bill Parcells. Joe Burrow, 34-42, 481 yards, 3 touchdowns, no INTs. The TDs go. Tyler Boyd, 8 for 155 and a touch. Jamar Chase, 8 for 130 and 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins says, don't forget about me, 5 for 93. And Hayden Hurst, 6 for 48. There you go. As he gets it done. Joe Mixon, 17-58 and rushing touchdown. Burrow with a rushing touchdown to benefit his fantasy day as well. The Bengals made it look easy and then just put her in cruise control.
Yeah. This one, we saw A.J. Terrell go out, standout corner for the Falcons, and it was all downhill from there. And again, the NFL has been very unpredictable, but you would think going forward, Atlanta's defense is going to be easy to pick on. It's Carolina next week, so we're not exactly saying put in P.J. Walker, but let's definitely put a little bookmark on this one that until further notice, it seemed like Terrell was kind of the keystone of the defense. And once he was out, everything became really easy. The Falcons even stopped the Bengals on 4th down once, or it could have been even worse. And this is one of those games where they really could let up in the second half. You saw Tyler Boyd with the big touchdown early. Jamar Chase got a little banged up in this game, ended up coming back in the second half. Everything should be fine, but let's just keep an eye on that. And sure, T. Higgins, Hayden Hurst, they weren't guys that made a difference this week, but this is what the Bengals pass offense was doing late last year, where 1 week it was Higgins, 1 week it was Chase, this week it was Boyd, and everybody in this passing game. And what's a blow up for Hayden Hurst? 6 for 16, 2 touchdowns. But hey, you'll take that. So the blow up games are going to come. Even Joe Mixon with that steady 12 to 18. Now he's at the top of that range, maybe even bigger game coming for him as things are coming easy again for this offense. They face Cleveland. See, we come in every week and see who's actually good. Well, today, Cincinnati was really good.
Detroit is not very good. And Dallas, well, okay, Dak, you're back. Could you look a little better? So let's go through this one. Detroit side, not much to talk about, Bloom. Jared Goff, no touchdowns, 2 INTs. Sun God gets knocked out with a concussion. Hopefully he's okay. That it seemed like their spirit was taken when Amon-Ra St. Brown was knocked out of this game. TJ Hawkinson, 448. My friend Khalif Raymond gets 5 for 75. Nobody starts him. Brock Wright, 4 for 57 in this one. Jamal Williams, 15 for 79. And, well, there you go. That's what they did, and it wasn't much.
No, it's sad, Cease. We saw this offense. It looked like a good offense. And we thought, okay, coming out of the bye, get St. Brown back, Swift back, this offensive line. No, Swift's not back. St. Brown's barely back, and we're back to a very feeble offense. And Cease, I think this highlights why you just can't go forward with Jared Goff as your plan, because he's not going to do anything to elevate the offense at all if the structure around him is not creating the value for him to harvest. So yeah, it was a miserable, and Dallas's defense is good. So it was a miserable afternoon. And even TJ Hawkinson, like, okay, well, at least we got TJ Hawkinson. Brock Wright was making plays. And in fact, if there was a turning point in this game, it was Brock Wright getting down maybe across the plane to the goal line, but Dan Campbell doesn't challenge. They run the ball with Jamal Williams. He fumbles at the 1, and whatever chances the Lions had, because their defense actually played okay. For the Lions defense, they played very well. Reynolds, I think he's obviously banged up again. Missing practice coming out of the bye, never good. Khalif Raymond at least did something. But Detroit's offense is not going to get the engine to turn over. And these guys, they're not going to get DeAndre Swift. You just wonder if he's going to be truly healthy this year, or if this is just going to be kind of the pattern in his career at this point, the way that we're seeing that it's hard to have long stretches where he's fully healthy enough for them to trust him and him to trust himself. Dan Campbell problem, Cease, because I want to see an NFL with Dan Campbell. I like Dan Campbell. I like a lot of the things that he has incorporated into this team, but when the results keep looking like this, you wonder how long it's going to be for him. It's probably at least next week he'll still have a job against Miami.
Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Dak Prescott was back facing the worst defense ever and didn't do much. 19 to 25, 207 yards, 1 touchdown, no INT. CeeDee Lamb, 4 for 70 in this one. Noah Brown, 5 for 50. And if you got points for that flip,
yeah. Oh, man.
My God.
Almost stuck
on the line. Yeah, almost stuck the landing. Dalton Schultz, 5 for 49. And you thought it was Dalton Schultz when Peyton Hendershot gets the touchdown. And you're like, oh, and even Scott Hansen on Red Zone was like, there's Dalton Schultz. No, that's Peyton Hendershot. Because when it was like, it's either Peyton Hendershot, Jake Ferguson, or Dalton Schultz. Insert Cowboys TE. Here, Michael Gallup got nothing. Ezekiel Elliott got 2 touchdowns. And then Tony Pollard, 83 yards on the ground. Elliott, 57 yards on the ground. So the Cowboys made it look easy, but I honestly thought they'd put on a little bit more.
Yeah, against the Lions defense, right? But I think we can at least see the blueprint. Defense plus the backfield, which is really what they were doing last year. So Dak Prescott, you're really adjusting expectations for him down. Now, as he's more accustomed, he's rusty. Playing his thumb will feel better. There will be better days, but Dak Prescott's not. Remember, he was being drafted even the top 5 quarterbacks recently. No, I think he's a borderline quarterback 1, and it's going to be a modest output for him, modest output for CeeDee Lamb. Yes, he's going to go to the tight ends. Dalton Schultz looks like he's going to be, again, in our tight end 1 ranks, but like you said, Hendershot getting the touchdown here. It's okay. That's actually still good for Schultz in that it was the 1 passing touchdown to the tight end. Noah Brown, more productive than Michael Gallup. More targeted, just more prominent in Dak Prescott's eyes. I thought maybe Prescott, with all that experience with Gallup, that would ignite something with Prescott. Not this week, and maybe we'll have to be debating Michael Gallup and shut him down this week, Cease. But still, I mean, and this is what's actually encouraging if you're a Cowboys fan. It can get a lot better. They're a team that is definitely one of the good teams, one of the balanced teams. Ezekiel Elliott looking good here. You got a little banged up, but came in and got 2 touchdowns. Tony Pollard had some chances. They gave him some shots. Not quite goal to go, but in the red zone. So it's going to be there. The running backs are going to be the safest plays along with CD Lamb. But this is going to be a modest offense with a good defense. And they should be able to take care of business next week like they did this week when they face the Bears.
The Giants were taking care of business, and they got their W over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Barely, but let's talk about it because it was fun. 23-17, and Daniel Jones doesn't get any call. Like he's going to slide, he gets hammered, and they're just like, huh? It's Daniel Jones. We're going to throw the flag. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, well, any other quarterback would get that anyway. Not making excuses for Danny Dimes, but 202 yards, 1 touchdown, no INT, a rushing touchdown, and that 107 yards rushing. Thank you, Brian Dable. Saquon Barkley, 24 for 110 in this one. Also 4 for 25 as receiver. Darius Slayton, 3 for 58 and a touch. Wandale, super fun to watch, 6 for 50 in this contest. Not much else from anyone else, and the Giants do hang on barely to win.
At some point, as I said last week, that was the first time I thought, I wonder if they're having some remorse about not picking up the 5th-year option. And then at some point, it goes beyond just, hey, is he good enough to be the starter for the Giants next year, whatever the price is going to be, or the franchise tag price, or is he good enough to merit like a Ryan Tannehill kind of deal, or maybe even going back to the Andy Dalton, Colin Kaepernick deals where we'll pay you mid-market value on a year-to-year kind of a team option every year kind of structure. But now we're beyond that, Cecil, where it's say, he's elevating the team. He's leading the team. He's making plays. He's steadying the offense, and he doesn't have much around him in the offensive line. The young tackles, I think it was Evan Neal getting banged up, but he's making the plays. And from a fantasy perspective, he's a runner. And there was one point when he got free of the defense. If he hadn't stumbled, he might have had like a 70-yard Terrell Pryor kind of touchdown in this game. He's got that kind of speed, and he's got that kind of toughness. We've always said, going back to Duke, his days there, he will stare down the barrel. He's tough. He will stare down the barrel to make that throw to Darius Slayton. Yeah, he's still just a desperation play, really. But you see somebody making a play on a downfield pass, and then Wandale Robinson helping him move the sticks, and then Saquon Barkley, and that's all you need. But Daniel Jones, if you got him in a best ball league, or you happen to play him to cover Josh Allen this week or something like that, it was a home run for you. And now you see that demonstrated ceiling with just one more competent receiver, Wandale Robinson. What they can do. This team is 6-1. We'll talk about how they eked it out, but they're 6-1, and we'll say like teams will be 3-0, and it might be counterfeit because of the schedule, right? 6-1. Can you really go 6-1 in the NFL and have it be counterfeit? I don't think so.
Not really. No.
Yeah, I think they're onto something here, and they're going to play Seattle next week, another one of the surprise teams. So our 2 surprise teams. There's your feel-good story. For Jacksonville. It was almost a feel-great story, but
almost
missed it by that much.
If Trevor Lawrence could do a quarterback sneak, then maybe it would have been. But Trevor Lawrence, like, you gotta get low. Do what Tommy Brady used to do on quarterback sneaks. Trevor Lawrence, 22 of 43, 310 yards, no touchdowns, no INTs. Travis Etienne, 14 for 114, 1 rushing touchdown. It's all him, ladies and gentlemen. Trevor Lawrence also had a rushing touchdown there as well. James Robinson got a target, no catches, no carries. Christian Kirk, 7 for 96. Evan Ingram, 4 for 67. Marvin Jones Jr., 4 for 57. Zay Jones, 4 for 54. And again, you go for it on 4th down. Early in the 4th quarter, Bloom, was kind of weird. And Trevor Lawrence doesn't pick it up. And, well, the Jaguars don't win.
Yeah, they did get the ball back with a minute left, and the Giants kept committing defensive penalties, holding, illegal contact, roughing the passer, and it got the Jags down to about the 20-yard line. Shades of Kevin Dyson, Cease.
No.
Christian Kirk tackled at the 1-yard line, where we would have had. And hasn't Jacksonville been the site of some of the weirder game-winning scenarios? Almost one for the Jags. And remember, the AFC South, NFC South doesn't matter. You're in it. If you can go 500 this year, you have a good chance of going to the playoffs. Well, not 500, I guess, whatever the percentage is if you go 9-8. But the big fantasy story here is, where'd you go, James Robinson? And it really is something, Cease. I talked about this with Chris Allen on the Start Sit show. I have to say that slowly. That that was the only threatening player they had, Travis Etienne. And as much as we like James Robinson and what he can bring if they control a game, their defense isn't helping them control games at this point. The passing game isn't really that threatening downfield. So you have to get Travis Etienne involved. They didn't just get him involved. It's his backfield now. And yes, he had a fumble inside. I mean, there were ways for Jacksonville to win this game other than an amazing pass on the last seconds. Etienne fumbles into the end zone, right? But Etienne is also what's good about this offense. And they mixed it up early, and it even got a 2-point conversion after a penalty on an extra point to go ahead 8-7 early. They're using a lot of different targets, but again, this isn't a very threatening defense downfield. They got the benefit of an iffy rushing the passer call on the one Lawrence sneak touchdown that did work. And you see the modest ceiling otherwise. Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Zay Jones, modest upside here. And we'll see what this offense can do next week against Denver. And I can't bring myself to shut down James Robinson. Don't even ask.
Yeah, it's too good. Too many good memories. Too many questions, but not questions for Tennessee. Some segues just write themselves, Bloom.
Yeah.
Tennessee Titans, Indianapolis Colts is the next game we're going to recap. And of course, Tennessee wins 19-10, the final score. And Matt Ryan goes 33 of 44, 243 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. Paris Campbell, so good to see him like flourishing, Bloom, because that talent's always been there. And 10 for 70 and a touchdown. Beautiful play on that touchdown grab. Michael Pittman, 6 for 58. Nyheim Hines, 5 for 41. And then, 4 carries for 2 yards. But Jonathan Taylor is back, 10 for 58. Okay, that's what you got. Deion Jackson, a couple carries, and not much else from anyone else, as the Colts really couldn't do much, and Matt Ryan kept giving the ball away.
You see, you had some games where Matt Ryan's at least got this offense to have a pulse, but then there are other games when it feels like they can't win with Matt Ryan. It's just they're not going to be able to win with him, and it's really starting to create confusion. See, confusion, right? What'd you say? Jonathan Taylor's line was 10 for 58.
10 for 58, yeah.
10 for 58. 5.8 yards. That's pretty good, I think. This game was never out of hand. Their defense didn't give up a touchdown. And Jonathan Taylor got 10. I know it was his first week back from an ankle. 10 carries? 10? Or how about Deion Jackson then? Something.
Right.
This running game. Matt Ryan throws the ball 44 times. How's that working out? Yeah, and maybe this is the problem of when you win when he throws 58 times. We talked about it. Surely that's not the blueprint when Jonathan Taylor's back. Yeah, that's the blueprint. Well, it shouldn't be to tear up the blueprint. And yes, a lot of short receptions for Paris Campbell. Michael Pittman does okay, had a fumble here, the last chance the Colts had to get back. In this one, you saw Jonathan Taylor getting reception. So from a fantasy perspective, it worked out okay in PPR leagues, but it's nothing like what we saw working last year with Carson Wentz. Almost like it's productive if Frank Reich doesn't trust his quarterback. It's productive because then they end up in the game plan that they should have had all along. So you also saw, by the way, these teams played 3 weeks ago. I think that Matt Ryan threw for 360-ish yards, about half of that to the tight ends. Tight ends did nothing in this one. Right. So there's an adjustment for Tennessee, adjustment for Tennessee's defense. And for Indianapolis, they're not out of, again, if you're in one of the divisions that is one of the Souths, it's going to be a while before you're mathematically out of playoff contention. So Washington will be mathematically out of playoff contention earlier than those teams. It's the Wentz Bowl next week.
They said no math would be involved. Tennessee, the math is easy. Give it to Derrick Henry. 30 for 128. That, like Indianapolis, you have the blueprint. It's on the opposite side of the field.
Yeah.
Like 30 carries, 128. Easy. Win. Easy. Ryan Tannehill, 13 of 20. That's what Matt Ryan should be getting. Austin Hooper, 3 for 56, and one of the prettiest bobble catches that you'll ever see. But he got it. Nobody started him, but he got it. 3 for 56, and I don't even need to bring up Robert Woods or Hassan Haskins.
Yeah,
nothing.
They don't matter.
Nothing. Although my guy Chiggy Okonkwo, I'm telling you, Dynasty GMs, Dynasty Chiggy, get Chiggy with it.
Yeah.
Okonkwo, he did have a target, no catches. Anyway, Bloom. The Titans, this one, we could take any recap from a Tennessee game we've done and be like, just play it over again.
right? And see, where does that recap usually end? The team that's probably going to win the AFC South is the Tennessee Titans, right? I mean, this is good enough to win. And I mean, look, opportunistic defense. Bud Dupree forces the pick six with his pressure here, and then you saw another bad interception. I think they drive down and get a field goal off of that. So that alone basically gives the defense, sets them up for those points. They get a lot of field goals, and that's fine. That's plenty for Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel says a W is a W. I would cut off all kinds of body parts. What would he cut off for this win, Cease? Just like maybe a tip of his finger. Not very much.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but it's worth something as this team is asserting themselves as, hey, Jacksonville's going to have problems losing, finding a lot of different ways to lose today. Indianapolis is going to be a team that has a quarterback that is a limiting factor and doesn't have an identity. Houston. Tennessee says, fine, we'll host a playoff game again. And it's just a lot of Derrick Henry and a lot of field goals and a defensive touchdown. And here's your AFC South favorite going to Houston next week.
Oh boy, the next game that we're going to talk about, Bloom, is very interesting
and depressing, really.
Yeah, it is. Packers Commanders, and it's 23-21 Commanders. Okay, 23-21 Commanders. We're going to talk about YOLO ball in a little bit with Taylor Heinicke. Is every pass look like a pick six? That's the way it started. Well, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers first. 1, he's hurt. 2, he hates his receivers. 3, I don't know. I don't know what you could say about Aaron Rodgers. 23 of 35, 194, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. Both the touchdowns to Aaron Jones as a receiver, 953 and 2, and then 8 for 23 on the ground. And again, Bloom, how often do I say this? At halftime, it's 14-10. Why aren't you running the ball? Like at halftime, it's 14-10, and you have the lead. Why aren't you running the ball?
Right.
Like Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, they're better than Sammy Watkins or Amari Rodgers, and God bless him because it was his NFL debut. But Samori Toure, right? The Romeo, that courtship's over, huh? It's just Alan Lazard 6 for 55. This is what you get. So it's just not fun. It's not good, and it wasn't good today.
No, and there's some symmetry here with what's going on with Brady and Rodgers. It's natural to want to group them together, and you like to believe that the veteran quarterback, the quarterback who's seen everything, is going to be able to make do maybe in some more difficult circumstances. Green Bay shuffled the line today. Okay, David Bakhtiari's out. Elgin Jenkins kicks back inside to guard. We've got, I think, one offensive lineman he's playing the same position he played last week for this offensive line. That's so you lower expectations, but this is a Washington defense that let Justin Fields and the Bears get to the goal line 3 different times last Thursday night. Now, none of the times did Chicago even put up a point, but they were moving the ball. And you wonder again, and we saw this last week against the Jets too, when it was LaFleur against LaFleur. How have the Packers gone so far awry? Look to the Cowboys. Look to the Jets. Look to these teams that say we're going to run our offense through our backfield. And they have the players. They have the investment. I'm not sure where they lost their way. And I think that, we're going to go old school here. But the thing about the running game is this. And yes, there's nothing to just run the ball this many times and you'll win. No, come on. No one's saying that.
Kyle Shanahan actually believes that. He says if you run it 35 times, you'll win.
Yeah. Okay, Kyle. But well, no, because I think that there's no magic number. There's no right. I'm just saying, like, this is Kyle Shanahan. We got Christian McCaffrey. Let's see what happens.
Right.
But we can say this with confidence, right, Cease? Every time you run the ball, it increases the potential for the later runs to have value. And with each successive run, you can get it's opposite of diminishing returns. Yeah, right. Like a feedback loop. So it's not gonna, when you're going with this Dillon and Jones thing, it's not going to get off the ground unless you get up to carry 25 between the two guys. And that's not saying run it this many times and you'll win, but it's in the fourth quarter. It's also getting runners into a rhythm. It's getting your offensive line into a rhythm. And see, another thing, and I know that this is something that, again, to us, when we're watching fantasy lens football, we don't have an appreciation for this. But if you're an offensive lineman, you love it when the play is a run call, right? You're the aggressor, right?
It's easier. It's easier for you.
Yeah, especially if you're putting a bunch of guys in that haven't played in this configuration, right? And then I don't understand. It's kind of like looking at Indianapolis with Jonathan Taylor. I don't understand. I don't understand. And they actually haven't had a chance. And yes, Aaron Jones has some value. Alan Lazard has some value. And they actually even had, very fitting with Aaron Rodgers, a band is out on the field. They actually made it go for a little while on the last play. It was 23-21. They had to run one of those plays. And Aaron Rodgers actually had the ball around like the 20-yard line of Washington in the middle of the play and threw it all the way across the field to offensive lineman. The ball went between the offensive lineman's legs out of bounds. And see, this is my headline for Packers. Packers have never lost back-to-back games under Matt LaFleur. Now they've lost 3 in a row. Next week, they get Buffalo. Here's the headline, Cecil. Who cut the cheese?
Taylor Heineke, his game's pretty stinky, right? Because at the very beginning, he was 0-3, and each one of his passes could have been a pick six.
Yeah.
It was serious YOLO ball.
Rasul Douglas, all 3 of them, the 3 drops were all Rasul Douglas.
Yeah, it was like, I just throw it up there. And you're like, oh my God, we're gonna see Sam Howell in the first quarter. Like,
right.
It's gonna go off the rails. And then Taylor Heineke rights the ship with a P. YouTube. Taylor Heineke, 20 of 33, 201, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT, and he did have a pick six. Terry McLaurin, 5 for 73 and a touchdown. Curtis Samuel, 5 for 53, and then also 5 for 26 as a runner. They're getting all tricky in there. Amari Rodgers, 3 for 28. Armani Rodgers, who was in the Wildcat, is that right? On the Samuel run, one of the Samuel runs. Antonio Gibson, 3 for 18 and a receiver and a receiving touchdown, and beautiful footwork on that catch as well. Brian Robinson, 20 for 73 in this contest, a hard fought yards. There's your example for Jonathan Taylor, who was 5.8 a carry. Yeah. Brian Robinson was 3.7 a carry, and they still kept feeding him, and they flipping won. Anyway, Bloom, let's talk about it and the turnover machine that could have been with Taylor Heineke, who loves walking that edge.
Yeah, he does. And that's all right. He embraces it. And I forgot to mention, because you mentioned the Wildcat with Armani Rodgers, that the Titans actually did a handoff to Malik Willis, got in for a couple of snaps. Tannehill got a little shaken up. And then when Tannehill came back in, they tried to hand the ball off to Malik Willis and fumbled it. So, I mean, they even gave that to the Colts, and it wasn't enough. Washington, on the other hand, using Armani Rodgers, who played some quarterback in college, getting some things done. What can you say about this Washington team? And you wish they were in the NFC South. They might be able to be the NFC South champions. They play for Ron Rivera. See, they play for Ron Rivera. And I think one of the things we lose, because we're always talking about rational coaching and riverboat Ron and coaches that are old school or aren't willing to embrace new thinking. But there is still, again, football at its heart is an emotional game. And there's something to be said for a coach that you'll play for and a quarterback you'll play for. And that's Taylor Heineke. There's something to be said, Cecil, if you're not talking about your second chef, if you're not off at a wedding or whatever, or dealing with your marital problems, there's something to be said for the guy that is laying it all out there. Like, that really would probably be willing to take a hit that could possibly end his life if it means he can make a throw. That's Taylor Heineke. And at first, it really looked like I did a Gilligan's Show My Age, Cecil. I did this isn't even going to be a 3-hour tour. Where's Mr. Howell? Maybe he'll be a millionaire. No, he righted the ship, and a lot of it is giving Terry McLaurin a chance to make plays, because Taylor Heineke doesn't have a good arm. See, Taylor Heineke on a scale of 1 to 10 in NFL arm. What is he, like 3, a 2.5?
2.
Yeah. I mean, that's not how Taylor Heineke has made a career in the NFL, but he can get it to a spot where Terry McLaurin can make a play, and Terry McLaurin's going to make that play. He caught the big touchdown. He caught the balls to clinch the game, kind of like what Chase Claypool was doing. And again, there was a lot of chances for this game to get out of hand early and the team to lose confidence in Heineke, but I think they like him. And then what you saw is the way they're using this backfield. Brian Robinson's not that talented of a runner. I mean, he's going to give you everything he has.
Right.
He's just a bit of a pedestrian runner in terms of adding value, but he's going to grind out tough yards. And then you can use Antonio Gibson, who's fresh, and Antonio Gibson with that skill as a receiver. And maybe they can both have value if this team is competitive. And then you have Curtis Samuel making some plays, taking hits otherwise in his Swiss Army knife role. So this was a good win. And see, I think that there's absolutely something to be said when you watch Washington today. How much was it that they were beating Aaron Rodgers? When you watch Carolina today, how
Well,
much whether
it's,
they were
the
beating
Tom Brady. I
Brady.
almost said that when we did the
Yeah.
Panthers game. It's like it
Yeah.
feels good to beat up
Yes.
on that guy.
Yes, and you see, maybe this is something we can add into motivation this year, right? For teams, because we can look at records, we can look at trends, we can look at how these teams play each other. But then all these players have histories with these quarterbacks now. All of the defenders do. The offensive players have been on the losing end against these quarterbacks so many times. So whatever your motivation is, Carolina, whatever your motivation is, Washington, you have extra motivation, and I think you can see that. No, we'll stay on Heineke's island again, going up against Indianapolis next week.
Well, Brett Rippon does like Jerry Jeudy. We're doing the early games, just so everyone knows, and we have some stuff going on.
Sure.
So we're doing the early games for you. Thank you for listening, and we'll continue on. We couldn't do it. I'm doing it during the Broncos game. Like, obviously, I have things going on because I shouldn't be doing the show during the Broncos game, Bloom. But I'm watching Jerry Jeudy go off with Brett Rippon, who's not that good. He's like Taylor Heineke's arm. Bloom, we saw Christian McCaffrey's averaging like 10 yards a carry. So that's working. Do you have any brief thoughts of the afternoon games? Is there still going on right now? If, for example, the Broncos game's 6 minutes left in the second quarter.
Yeah, you can see Seattle's offense is good, balanced. Kenneth Walker, what do you add there? I think that looking at the late games too, our hopes that San Francisco's offense, we had visions with Trey Lance of extra dimensions opening up in Kyle Shanahan's offense with these excellent skill players. Now Christian McCaffrey really might help unlock some of that. So I'm just, Cease, I do want to tell people to piggyback what you're saying. Sometimes we can do the entire slate of Sunday games. Sometimes we can recap these games, but join us for the Tuesday waiver wire show, our previews. You'll always know where we are at on these players and where Cecil Lammey is on the Broncos. Maybe Jerry Jeudy looks a little better as trade bait after this game.
They're featuring him for a trade, which actually could be happening.
Yeah. We're not kidding.
Hey, Aaron Rodgers is calling the Broncos again, but it's not about him.
No, they're not going to get Claypool, so we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, Green Bay, trade for Billy Turner. So,
it's
a sale in Denver.
Get him back.
Yeah, get your Colorado stuff going on. Anyway, that's a wrap, everybody. We appreciate you. Be safe, be kind. Know you are appreciated. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We are the Audible. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.